The name Thomas means twin. Thomas means twin. That's an interesting point because the gospel story is about St. Thomas, one of the 12 apostles, who had difficulty believing. And his name means twin. And if we are honest about it, we can sometimes see ourselves in the person of the Apostle Thomas, who had a difficult time believing what he didn't see with these eyes. Sisters and brothers, it's very true that we are given two sets of eyeglasses, two sets of eyes, as it were. The physical eyes, we see everything around us. You see this candle, I see you, physical eyes. But it's also true that we have spiritual eyes, the eyes of the spirit, the eyes of the soul. They see beyond the physical. They see another dimension. They are the eyes of faith. The eyes of faith. The eyes of faith see a reality that is far beyond the physical. The eyes of faith see that our life here is temporary. The eyes of faith see the presence of God acting in sometimes anonymous ways throughout our lives. The eyes of faith recognize God is very real and closer to us than our own shadow. Sometimes we can be pessimistic. And I think a basic question for us is the Christian faith fundamentally optimistic or pessimistic? You could say that Thomas was a pessimist. He wouldn't believe that Jesus was risen. That can't happen. He's dead. I saw him die. I saw him buried. I can't believe it. Pessimism. And yet, Jesus appears to him and says, look, Thomas, you're short-sighted. You're only seeing with the physical eyes. You have to see with the spiritual eyes. Blessed are they who do not see with the physical eyes, but believe. Optimism. It's a story told about two children. They were twins. One was an extreme optimist and the other an extreme pessimist. It's an old story. You probably heard it. The mother was quite concerned about these twins because one was an extreme optimist and the other was an extreme pessimist, so she took him to a psychiatrist. She said, Doc, they're extreme. One's an extreme pessimist, one's an extreme optimist. What can you do? No problem. I'll take care of it within an hour. So he took the pessimist down the hall and opened a room, and it was filled with toys. He said to the pessimist, you stay in here for an hour. We'll be back. And took the optimist down the hallway to another room, opened the door, and there was a pile of horse manure. He said, you stay here with the horse manure. Shut the door. About an hour later, the doctor, quite confident, said to the mother, come on with me. And opened up the room on the pessimist. There he was amidst all these wonderful toys of about every kind, and he was sulking in the corner with his arms crossed like this, frowning. The doctor said, what in the world's wrong with you? He said, I can never find the toys I want to play with. The doctor shook his head and the mother shook her head. The doctor said, come on, let's go see how the optimist is doing. He opened the door on the optimist and there was a pile of horse manure. And the kid was jumping up and down, throwing the manure up in the air, singing, joyfully, gleefully, throwing up the manure. And the doctor said, what in the world are you doing throwing up the manure, the horse manure, in this room? And the optimist said, where there's this much horse manure, there has to be a pony. We could use a dose of optimism because a lot of times we just don't see, like that pessimist, the beautiful reality that is around us. He couldn't see these beautiful toys. He had his mindset on something else. He was negative. The positive kid, amidst the manure, knew that there had to be something good. A Christian is fundamentally optimistic, not in a naive sense, not in an extreme sense, but in a real sense, knowing that God is present even amidst the manure of our lives. that we can keep digging and keep hoping and keep trusting that even amidst all the problems, the struggles, and the stinking filth of the difficulties that we face, God is present to us and has something good in store for us if we but trust in Him. Fundamentally, Christianity is optimistic because it trusts that God is present even in the darkest of moments. Christianity is fundamentally optimistic. It knows that even amidst the deepest trials, the deepest temptations, the greatest struggles, God is present. It is fundamentally optimistic that even amidst the manure that dished out toward us in our lives, that God is present and it's got something good in store if we trust and come before Him with an open heart and to say, Lord, I trust in you. Even as I look at the symbol of your failure, I know that it was a success because you rose from the dead. And with confidence and trust in you, even amidst the crucifixions of my life, the trials, the struggles, temptations, the pressures, the stress, the anxiety, I come before you and I look at your cross and I unite my sufferings to yours and I say, Jesus, I trust in you. I know that you will bring good somehow out of this. And if I but keep my eyes focused on you, the eyes of faith, I can see you with me to bring me through this dark moment to a greater light. Fundamentally, Christianity is optimistic, but it requires a certain depth. It requires a depth of faith and confidence that sees beyond the physical and sees below the surface. I think we're living in an age when if you don't see it with these eyes, you just don't believe. Overly scientific, and it's not to say that things are bad about science, but science can only take us so far. Science only deals with what is physical, the physical world. But Christianity says there's more to reality than what meets the eye. There's more to truth than what meets the eye. There's more to reality than what meets the eye. You don't see God when that host is raised and looks like a piece of bread. If you have the eyes of faith to see, you can see God there. You can see the presence of Christ there. But it requires moving beyond the shallow to a deeper level of seeing things below the surface, to know that God is present every moment of every day if we but slow down enough and ask Him to help us see with the eyes of faith. On this Mercy Sunday, we remember Saint Faustina, who in the 1930s had an apparition of Jesus, who came to her and said, Sister Faustina, who's now Saint Faustina, I want you to promote a devotion to my mercy, the love that I have for each and every individual, to promote my mercy so that people see beyond the surface. People see below the surface. They see my presence even amidst the struggles of life. Help them to trust in my presence, the presence of my merciful heart with them every moment of every day. Even when they feel most abandoned, He is always present. And so she went about preaching that and teaching that. And the Lord Jesus said to her, I want you to get an artist and tell him what I looked like and have a painting rendering of my apparition. And so she did. And this is a copy of the original that's in Poland, a copy of what St. Faustina said Jesus looked like. From His heart flowed blood and water, a sign of His mercy and the cleansing that He wants to bring each of us. And it's coming from His heart, a heart that is always near to us. No matter how dark things seem to be, God's light is greater still. No matter how deep the depths into which we fall, no matter how tall the mountain of manure that's overwhelming our lives, God is always present if we but have the optimism, the trust, and the faith to see Him bringing us through to a better tomorrow. And he said to St. Faustina on the bottom of the painting, write 5 words: Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in you. And that's what this Mercy Sunday, and that's what all the faith, the Catholic faith, is all about. Optimism, trust. And we have a God who loves us that much, and who not just loved us 2,000 years ago when he died on the cross, although that's the watershed of his love for us, that love is present to us 24/7. If we but access it. The problem with the faith is not that God is absent. The problem is that people do not access the power that God has available to us if we but trust in him and see with the eyes of faith. When that host is raised in a few moments and the bells are rung to call our attention and the chalice is raised to call our attention, think of it as your phone ringing to get your attention and mine so that we can see with the eyes of faith, Jesus. Help us to see with the eyes of faith your presence. Help us to see your heart pierced, shedding forth the rays of light and blood which remind us of your mercy and your love for us. When that host is raised and the bells are rung, help us to say what Thomas said when he actually touched your wounds. My Lord and my God, my Lord and my God, my Lord and my God, I trust in you. Amen.